So hello guys, and welcome to another video. And a couple weeks ago, as I've been talking about a lot on this channel, the Thousand Year Door remake was announced, and I am really excited about it. Definitely one of my most anticipated games. But I feel like there's been an unintended, or in this case, kind of intended consequence of this remake being announced, and that's stirring up the Paper Mario community once again, because we all know how the Paper Mario community is in terms of like kind of talking online, either on like Twitter or Reddit, and it's just as crazy as it has been. And I'm actually a little bit surprised about how much negativity has been spreading even after this remake, because I thought, like, at first that this remake would kind of help this fan base and actually kind of improve things a lot. And I mean, I guess some things are improving, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but it does still seem like there is, like, some controversy and a lot of toxicity kind of brewing in this fan base, as it has been for the past decade, or even more so in the past 3 years. And it's just pretty unfortunate, because I love talking about this series. Like, I like talking about certain elements of it, and especially now that the Thousand Year Door remake is happening, it's great to talk about, like, the possibilities of what this remake could change about the original game, and what this could mean for the Paper Mario series. So it's just unfortunate that, like, some people have to make it, like, more kind of stressful and toxic and just insufferable to talk about sometimes, in some cases. And it's just annoying. I don't know why this fan base has to be this way, even after things have been improved. So, the reason why this fan base has been split as it is in the first place was because of Sticker Star and Color Splash. Sticker Star, after that game, it wasn't as bad. It was mostly just people, like, kind of, like, I feel like most of the fan base collectively agreed that it wasn't, like, the best step in the series, and then some people respectfully liked the game separately and everything. But once Color Splash was announced and released, I feel like that's when a lot of things started to separate, because Color Splash still suffered from a lot of the problems that Sticker Star had, and wasn't a proper return that a lot of people were wanting at the time. So, and it was also good enough to where it can kind of warrant its own fan base and kind of have a lot of people enjoy the game. So that kind of created a divide in the fan base that really hasn't been repaired since then. So with Origami King, there were definitely a lot of toxicity on both sides that I've kind of experienced. I've kind of, like, dabbled on both sides of the argument. Like, when Origami King was announced, I kind of was on the side of giving it a chance, and then like a little bit after the game was released, I was kind of on the side of, like, being a little more critical of it and everything. But now my opinion on Origami King is a little more neutral, and I kind of see a lot of the insufferability and toxicity from both sides of the fan base here. A lot of people like to say that it's the Thousand Year Door fans that are the ones that are toxic. And I mean, yeah, there are quite a lot of toxic classic Paper Mario fans, and I will definitely get into that in a little bit, because I feel like things have been getting a little worse on that side of the fan base, surprisingly, after this remake was announced. But there's also the modern side of the fan base, which also has some bad apples as well, which are worth noting. And I just want to say, this is definitely the minority of each side of the fan base. This is basically the vocal minority of each side of the fan base. Most Paper Mario fans, most fans of the series are reasonable. I just want to say that on both sides of the fan base, or anyone in between who can appreciate all games, like, both sides have the majority of people that are reasonable. So it's really just the bad apples in the toxic minority, the vocal minority here, is what's causing these issues in the Paper Mario fanbase, and that's basically kind of what I'm going to be noting here. But with the classic side of things, I tend to kind of agree with most points on like the classic side of the argument, even though I don't really kind of place myself on any side of the Paper Mario fanbase. But I feel like these classic fans sometimes really make me feel bad for loving these games so much sometimes. Because it's just unfortunate that even after this remake was announced, there are still a lot of people just like hating on the modern games. And I mean, the thing is, criticism towards the modern games is fine. Like, I criticize Origami King a lot. Even though I enjoyed the game, I still had some issues with it, and I didn't think it held a candle to the first three. But actively kind of going out of your way to just, like, hate on these games and just, like, kind of, be toxic to other people who enjoyed these games just isn't right, and it's just giving these older games like Thousand Year Door a bad look. One example that I saw recently, and is one of the inspirations for why I made this video in the first place, was a video that someone made called What the Remake Means for Paper Mario. And I mean, I kind of agree with like the general gist of what they were trying to say with the remake kind of finally being like an improvement to the Paper Mario series and everything. But the way they executed it really was kind of annoying, honestly. And their thumbnail was absolutely ridiculous. So basically it had like Mario and Goombella like shredding the Mario with the white outlines, and then like Kirsty, Huey, and then Olivia getting cut by scissors. It's just completely ridiculous. And the video itself just brought up the same points that people brought up over and over again. Like, oh, Color Splash and Sticker Star wasn't what people wanted, Origami King wasn't either, and it got even worse for some reason. It's just like the same exact things people were saying. I mean, sure, like, there is some valid criticism to, like, criticizing these games and saying what, like, because I don't like Sticker Star or Color Splash. I've made it vocal in the past that I am very critical of those games, as well as Origami King, even though I enjoyed that. But I'm not really gonna be, like, annoying about it, or just, like, repeat the same thing that people have been saying over the past, like, 10 years now. It's just gotten pretty repetitive. Like, if you are going to be critical of the modern games, at least bring up some of the details, like bring up the interviews, bring up things like the IP team, bring up like the general, like the genuine kind of missed potential that these games had. Because I feel like a lot of times people gloss over that and just immediately just like kind of blindly hate the games without looking at any of their elements. And I feel like better criticism can be formed if you can actually look at these games in a bit of a deeper way and kind of see what they were trying to do, what they kind of missed the mark on, and just in general, I just feel like that's a better way of approaching things, and that's kind of how I've been approaching my criticism to the modern games and everything. And I feel like it's in a way to where people who actually enjoy those games can kind of respect it more. Maybe they'll see your point, when you're actually kind of looking at different angles of the argument and everything. And then, another thing with people like on places like Twitter or Reddit, different social media places, there's also people that are just like outright toxic and just like extremely annoying. Like, one example, let's just call this person Dupe Luigi. They're just saying just threats to the developers just because the games were mediocre. Like, I don't really get why that matters so much. They're saying things like Tanabe should stub his toe or something like that. I obviously won't say what they actually said because I don't want to get demonetized. But it's just crazy what a lot of people have been saying. And then there was that one guy a few years ago, before, like, even Origami King released, that were just, like, actively going under, like, every Nintendo of America comment section, and they're just kind of saying that, like, oh, Origami King is Sticker Star 3, you're a blind Nintendo defender if you're supporting this game and everything. And those people still pop up from time to time, so it's just pretty annoying. And it's just annoying in general that this side of the fan base is still going on, because we've gotten that return. We've gotten that return to the original style now. Like, I've been wanting that return. Those people have been wanting that return to the original style. So I do not see the point in continuing to bash the modern games or people who like the modern games. There really isn't a point now. Like, I mean, yes, like I said, it's still fine to be critical, but just, like, completely, like, just hating on them and bashing them, just blindly, there's just no point to doing that now. Like, just focus on the remake. Just talk about the remake now. Praise the remake. I don't know why you should keep dwelling on the past in these, like games that you already consider subpar. Why keep dwelling on that at this point? Like, yeah, it's just, these people just really make the side of the fan base that I kind of associate with a little bit kind of look bad. And it's just kind of annoying. And then there's the other side of the fan base. Basically, kind of like the fans that prefer the newer games. And there's nothing wrong with preferring the newer games. I'm just referring to the vocal minority that is kind of toxic about that in a similar way to how older Paper Mario fans, with basically the vocal minority of them being toxic about certain things. But the problem with the toxic modern fans is that they generalize everyone who likes Thousand Year Door as being a part of, like, the toxic classic fans that I mentioned earlier, like being extremely annoying about it and harassing fans who prefer the newer games or just like the newer games, and just generalizing them all as TTYD fans, which is basically the term I've seen thrown around for a few years now. And there's some problems with that. Like I said, like, the majority of people who like Thousand Year Door are reasonable, so that's lumping in all of the people who like Thousand Year Door as, like, being a part of those, like, really toxic and annoying people and everything. And then some people are just outright saying that, like, Thousand Year Door fans don't deserve anything. They don't deserve this remake. I've even seen some people, of course, on Twitter, actually be upset over the fact that we're getting a Thousand Year Door remake, because they think that some fans, or all TTYD fans, don't deserve this remake. We don't deserve the Thousand Year Door getting remade. We just deserve another Paper Mario game. It's just such a weird argument. And I mean, I can at least understand where they're coming from to some degree, because I feel like it might be from some of the people who've been kind of harassed by these older Paper Mario fans, but I don't think that's always the case. I've seen some people just do it out of spite, because they saw people who were criticizing, like, Origami King or Color Splash. I've definitely seen some toxicity just kind of spawn just from people being critical of, like, those newer games, and some people not really accepting that. I've even had someone block me over liking the Thousand Year Door. Like, and the thing is, I like the Origami King too, so there was really, like, no point in just, like, kind of, like, hating me because I liked Thousand Year Door. Just simply liked the game, which is just pretty weird, and it's just a pretty weird situation in general. And I just remember, like, between, like, Origami King up until this remake, there's just been a lot of people who've been like pretty annoying about trying like to silence the criticism towards the modern Paper Mario games, or just like kind of group like everyone who liked Thousand Year Door into that group like I mentioned. It's kind of been a mixture of that over the past couple years. So those two sides of the fan base kind of being amplified with this remake being announced is pretty unfortunate. Honestly, at this point, I thought I'd never be saying this, but I feel like the older fans, the older toxic fans, might be a little more toxic right now, just due to the fact that they're just like hating the older or the newer games out of spite now that the Thousand Year Door remake was announced. But I feel like between 2020 and now, it was kind of the opposite. I'd say just slightly though. I'd say that both sides of the fan base were pretty close to being like just as like relevant and toxic and everything. But I'd say the modern fans were like a little more annoying, as bad as that sounds to say, between like 2020 and 2023, and then I feel like the kind of like the tables turned now that the remake was announced. So yeah, both sides are bad. I just want to get that out of the way. I don't really have a bias, even though I do prefer the classic games. I do not condone the toxic classic fans, nor the modern Paper Mario fans who are kind of toxic. I kind of think both sides are equally as toxic, even though both, like either one has been kind of more prevalent over the past few years. So it's just kind of sad at this point that this keeps happening. Like, you'd think at this point, with the Thousand Year Door remake, that things would be more resolved, like I mentioned earlier. But no. I want this to change. I want Paper Mario fans to accept each other's opinions, as impossible as that sound, and kind of enjoy the games that you enjoy. Since now, on the Switch, we have the best of both worlds. We have Origami King, which is the perfected version of the modern formula that was kind of previously had in Sticker Star and Color Splash. And then, with the Thousand Year Door remake, we're having an improved version of that refined classic Paper Mario feel. So we have basically the best of both worlds on the Switch. So there is no point in arguing. It's like Xenoblade 3, if you've played that game and kind of understand the story. It's just like, there's no point in fighting against each other now. Like, it's just like fueling the negativity surrounded with this franchise. Like, the Paper Mario series doesn't have to be known as one of the worst Nintendo fan bases. It doesn't have to be compared to Sonic and Pokemon. Like, Mario, like, aside from Paper Mario, is a generally good fan base, aside from the occasional Mario Kart roster argument. But Paper Mario is just like its own story, and is kind of has been for the past, like, decade, and even longer if you're counting Super Paper Mario. It's just like, I wish things would change now that the series is finally willing to go back to its roots. I wish people could actually agree to disagree in everything. It's just, like, really annoying that we have both sides of the fanbase that are still extremely annoying. But yeah, I just wanted to get that off of my chest. I've been seeing things a lot on Twitter and YouTube even about Paper Mario fans. And as someone who would kind of consider myself as a little bit, maybe a Paper Mario fan, maybe, just maybe a Paper Mario fan, that's just my take on it. And that's just kind of what I wanted to say. Both toxic sides are bad, and I feel like this should change. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server if you want to. Goodbye.